Hope you guys don't mind that the hair is up today, but it is just not cooperating. Hey guys, hope you're doing well and hope you are excited because today I am finally sharing with you my 2018 bullet journal. I know a lot of people do these videos at the beginning of the year, but this year I really wanted to make sure that I had lived in my bullet journal for a while before sharing it with you guys, because I did make a few format, organizational changes, things like that, and I wanted to make sure that I liked these changes and was going to keep using them before I shared it with you guys. I will be taking you over into a more flat lay situation in a second so that you can see the actual bullet journal pages, but for now I just wanted to talk at you for a second. Anyways, I decided to go with another Leuchtturm 1917 journal this year, mainly because I used a Leuchtturm last year for my 2017 bullet journal and was just really blown away by the quality of it. Honestly, I took this practically everywhere with me last year, and as you can see, there's only very, very minimal wear on the actual leather of the notebook. And the thing that I really was impressed by was the fact that I could put a lot of stuff in this back, in this back pocket here, and then the seam or the binding wasn't ripping apart, because that is an issue I've had with moleskins before. I should also mention that a Leuchtturm journal has roughly 238 pages, I believe, but I only ended up using 181-ish of them for 2017. So you could definitely get more than a year in a single journal if you wanted to, be more cost effective and just continue going on and on. But I really like having a fresh journal for a fresh year, so do with it what you will. I wanted to kind of throw that mini review in there because I do realize that Leuchtturms are a little bit more expensive. I paid about $20 for my journal this year, but I do think in this case you really do get what you pay for. It's a great quality notebook and I'm really quite happy with it. And I think that's all I wanted to say in this kind of sitting down portion. So let's go ahead and get into the actual journal, and I will also be talking about obviously the pens and things that I use. Actually, there's one more thing I wanted to mention. I will be referencing my 2017 bullet journal occasionally in this video, but I won't be giving you guys like a summary or a peek into how I set up that journal. So if you're interested, I did do a whole video in 2017 on my journal, so I will link it here. I think it's here in the cards and down in the description. And I was just reminded why I don't do flat lays, and that's because they are really hard to set up, especially if you don't have the proper equipment. So sorry that you can see the tripod, but I honestly think this is the best I can do. I've obviously covered up my name and my address here. I've got my table of contents, which I really like using, and again, because the Leuchtturms are pre-paginated, it just makes it a lot easier than a journal where you have to go through and number the pages yourself. And then I have my key, and I just wanted to point this out because I don't use the official bullet journal symbols simply because I really enjoy crossing off completed tasks. That's just what works for my brain, and it makes me feel accomplished. So I've stuck with this system in every single bullet journal I've had, actually, and I find it really works. Then I do color code as well. So blue things are personal, green things are for blog and YouTube, and red stuff is work related or monetary related, so like bills and things. I did change how I color code slightly, but we will see that when I get into my daily pages. Then over here I have 2018 at a glance, which is something I had in my 2017 bullet journal, but I did it slightly differently. In 2017 I had the month here, and then rather than listing the dates down here, I would list them over here on the side, and the months kind of went down this way. Ultimately though, that spread ended up taking up about 3 pages, and I never really used it for anything other than the birthdays that I put in right at the beginning of the year, so it just seemed like a waste of space to me. So this year I kind of truncated it all and did it in this manner. And then I have big tasks for 2018, which are basically my 2018 resolutions. I don't call them resolutions because I find that when I call them tasks, it implies that I actually have to get to them eventually, and I actually tend to stick to them better. Then I have a few financial trackers over here. I track my gas and my mileage. I know it seems a little excessive to track them manually, but I just really enjoy that. I think I wouldn't track them at all if I wasn't doing it manually. And then over here I have savings and finances. Obviously this is not a finished page. I have not decided yet how I want to track my savings here. I just like using it for big goals, but I don't think what I was doing last year really worked for me, so I'm still kind of browsing Pinterest and other people's journal videos and seeing what works, and maybe I'll report back when I have this set up. One thing you might notice I'm missing from the journal this year is my income tracker, which I had in my last 2 bullet journals, but I just realized last year that it was a lot easier to track income in like Google spreadsheets or Excel because you can move things around and you can auto calculate, which I just found very helpful. So I've taken that out of the bullet journal entirely, and now I just do all of that in Google Sheets. I guess that's what it's called. And actually that's all of my like introductory stuff. I tried to keep it way pared down, way minimal this year. And I think part of that is that I actually put all of my book related trackers back here at the end, which we will get to, but let's go through the monthlies first. This was how I set up January, and as you can see, you don't have to be perfect in your bullet journal. I wrote 2017 right off the bat and started the year with a mistake. But you know, we fixed it and we moved on. This is set up pretty much exactly the same as my monthly spreads last year, and I do realize that hand drawing out each little daily box is not the most efficient way to go, but I really like how it looks aesthetically, so I think I'm going to continue doing that. One thing I did add is a new January habit or a new habit section, simply because I'm trying to incorporate more healthy habits into my life this year, and I like the accountability that comes with actually writing them down. So I'm going to be doing that, I think, on most months. I don't know if I'll add a new habit every month, but on most months. And then one thing I will be not using in February, as you will notice, is this January tasks section. Now I took this out because I started recording weekly tasks, which I find works way better. One thing I did keep from last year are these content boxes right here. So these are all related to my like little Spider 9 online content. So I have my videos that I want to do in the month, I have my blog posts I want to do in the month, and then I have a little running TBR just for myself, not something I normally share with you guys, and not something I try and stick to super strictly, just a running list of the books that I'm currently interested in, so that if I do finish one, I can check it off and feel all accomplished. Then I also have an April magazine square over here, which sometimes gets a lot of use, sometimes doesn't get that much, kind of just depends on the month. Then the biggest change I've made to my bullet journal this year is that I'm doing these, I guess let's call them weekly cover pages, in which I have my tasks for the week, the events of the week, my purchases, and my little mini habit tracker. The tasks are generally things like bills, or if I have a big deadline, or if I have a project I want to get started on and I want to make sure I actually make progress, those things go here. And then I think events is fairly self-explanatory. I do track all of my expenses and purchases in Google Sheets, but I was finding that I would leave putting all of the expenses and all of my purchases into Google Sheets until the very end of the month, and it wasn't really helping me to see how I was spending week to week. So I find that if I include them here, I'm a little bit more responsible with my money. Like I realize how much I'm spending each week more. So I decided to add this purchases section, and so far it's really been quite helpful. Another change I made was that I am now doing little weekly habit trackers rather than a month-long habit tracker, simply because I just stopped using my month-long habit tracker pretty much at all for the last 3 months of 2017. I just found that I couldn't be bothered to flip all the way to the beginning of the month to track each habit. I was tracking too many habits. I didn't really care. I wasn't doing anything with that data. So I decided if I'm not really getting anything out of it, it's coming out. By breaking it down into each week, I'm really able to see like what areas I'm neglecting, what I want to focus on more in the coming week, and I just find that it works better for me. And then we move into my daily spreads. Now my daily spreads are pretty similar to last year. Again, I like to keep it super clean and simple and functional. Last year I was color coding in my dailies by using one of these multicolor pens and actually writing out each task in the corresponding color, but by the end of the year I just felt like it was looking really messy and it didn't kind of go with the colors I was using, and I don't know, it just wasn't clean enough for me. So what I've done this year is change the color of the dots themselves. Now I don't know if this is going to come up on camera for you guys, but here I've got a red dot, that is a work thing. I've got a blue dot here, that is a personal thing. And I've got a green dot here, and that is a blog or YouTube related thing. I really like how clean all of the black text looks. I find it very aesthetically pleasing, and I also like that the color coding itself is just a lot more subtle. Another thing I'm trying to be better about in my bullet journal this year is just to kind of use it more organically. So if I want to take notes in the middle of a week, I'm going to go ahead and take notes. If I want to just like add a random thing without thinking it through perfectly, I'm just going to add that random thing. I think last year I was getting kind of bullet journal paralysis, where I felt like I had to have a super well planned out, really aesthetically pleasing spread before I actually put it in the journal, which is just ridiculous because that's not the point of it at all. So I'm just kind of going with the flow this year, and you'll see as we continue going that I do just like add notes and brainstorms and things like that. I'm going to go through the next couple pages pretty quickly because we just rinse and repeat. We've got weekly cover pages and more dailies, and again, more notes. It may seem a bit time consuming to set up a new cover page every single week, but I kind of think of it as my 20-minute weekly planning session where I just kind of sit down, draw out the boxes, plan out the really important things I want to get done that week, and you know, just kind of give myself some planning time. And then we have February, which you will see is very similar to January. I changed the style of the boxes slightly. I did take out my monthly tasks section, and I included my new habits up here. Honestly, my one regret is that I didn't use a more pastel blue because I feel like this just kind of doesn't really go with the rest of the bullet journal, but you know, that's too bad. Gotta move on, can't dwell on it. I'm not going to go through all of February because it is pretty much exactly the same as January, but I did want to point out that I ended up changing, or maybe let's go to this week, I ended up changing my daily or my healthy habits tracker slightly. So I decided I wanted to wake up at 6 a.m. instead of 7. I added a morning meditation, I do exercise, then I have read/learn because I feel like sometimes you learn a lot like in podcasts or in YouTube videos, you know, just keep your brain active. Then I have create or write because there are multiple ways to create things. And then I have an evening meditation because like I talked about in my January roundup, I started doing evening meditation as well. And then I'm also tracking 11 p.m. in bed because if you're gonna get up earlier, you gotta go to bed earlier. So those are my monthly spreads, my daily spreads. And then the one other thing I wanted to show you guys is that at the back here, I've decided to do all of my reading trackers. I decided to put them at the back instead of at the front this year, simply because, like I said, I'm trying to keep this very simple and very functional. And I didn't feel like these were something I needed to see every single day as I flipped to my daily pages. So it just makes more sense to have them back here. This is where I'm tracking my Goodreads books, and I decided to do this little like arrow pattern thing. I don't really know what it's gonna look like as I continue, but I'm just gonna go with it, and that is that. And then I do have like one TBR challenge-ish thing back here, and that is the presidential biography challenge. Now, I didn't mention this in my reading goals for the year simply because it's not something I'm like actively challenging myself to do, but I really like the idea of starting to read more presidential biographies so that I can better understand how we came to be where we are now as a country. And then the last thing in here is my read your own damn books tracker. So I have a spreadsheet where I keep a running list of all of the books I own, physical, ebooks, and audiobooks, and then I just basically tallied them all up and came up with a whopping 179 unread books that I already owned at the beginning of 2018. I did this in my bullet journal last year and I really liked it. So what I'm going to do as I read books that I already owned as of the first of the year, I'm just going to like do a little circle or a dot around each number, and hopefully I will be able to knock some of these off so that my number here is smaller next year. That is everything in my journal, and then I quickly wanted to talk you through the pens I used before my camera dies on me here. So I've been using these Kuretake Zig Clean Color 2 pens. They are, sorry, that is not in focus. Let's see, focus. These are double-ended, so you have a skinnier end here, and then you have a fatter end here. And I have to say, you do need to give these like a second or two to dry before you turn the page, but generally speaking, I really like them. They're very pigmented. I originally got these for use in my Hobonichi journal last year, but they were horrible on the Hobonichi paper. They would smear at like the tiniest touch and took forever to dry. So I would not recommend these for use in a Hobonichi, but if you're using a Leuchtturm, I think they work pretty well. Like in the last two videos, I use a Sharpie pen for all of my black writing, and then I've been using, instead of a Staedtler Tri Plus, I've been using the Staedtler Tri Plus fine liners. So these are really, I don't know if you can see that, really, really tiny. And I use these just basically to fill in my monthly calendars and to do all of my color coding dots. All right, so that was my 2018 bullet journal, and I hope you guys enjoyed getting a peek inside. Obviously, you don't have to do your bullet journal exactly the same as I do mine. I just wanted to show you how I've set mine up this year so that if you are looking for journal inspiration, maybe you can find some here. I really enjoy making this kind of journaling organizational content, so hopefully I can come up with some more ideas to share with you later down the line. But if you have any stationery, organization, journaling related video ideas that you would like me to tackle, please leave me a comment down below. I also want to give a huge shout out to my patrons who allow me to do things like buy bullet journals so that I can set them up and share them with you guys. So thank you very much, patrons, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye!